Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's February 22nd. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and really, it was kind of a quiet. It was really a quiet day. We had a huge rally, but most all that movement came in the overnight. We had one nice move up here early morning after I got in, and then it was pretty much sideways after that. There weren't a whole lot of entries before 9 o'clock. This was the only one I really liked for sure here. Uh, Once we kind of hit the range, you can see coming down, there were a few trades. Coming back up, there were a few, and then coming down a couple more. So, interesting day. Just again, not a lot of trades, but all the movement was in the overnight. But we just found this strong support here around 1937 or so, and prices never could get below it really until actually we did just into the last seconds of the close, we got below that. So, but let's back out and talk about the trades. It'll be pretty quick tonight because there's not a whole lot to talk about here today. Really quiet day. When I came in, we had this spike up. Notice that we already had a break of that channel and a move to a new high. But generally, when you have one that strong, if we continue higher, it's going to be more of a 45-degree angle, which is kind of what we did. But we had a break of that really early and moved to a new high, and then we really sold off until we found the support here, and just ended up kind of going sideways as I showed you earlier. So you had to rely on your short-term trends, but this is a great setup here. Notice the support across here, and we fall below. Um, and notice that we had this channel working down right here after the break at a new high, and you make your new low, and then we rally from there. And so you've got this support running across here, and whenever you get those failed break lowers, they often turn out to be very great trades, especially when we traded up so strongly. You figure we're going to probably make another run at that high at least once. And so this was a beautiful setup here that if you just caught this one trade and you got some runners out of it, you did pretty well. But I didn't mean to. But actually, let me back up and talk about this one first. Notice that we had the break over here of this original real steep channel and a move to a new high, and we're trending down. And so it's all downhill from here. This was really right before the 7 o'clock hour, so 7 o'clock's right in here somewhere. And as we finally get the close outside this channel, and so we're looking for a move to a new low. It's tempting to go short right here, but I don't like the signal bar. And by the time you get this bar, you've moved down too much. So just kind of wait and see what happens. Then you get a failed second entry long right there. This kind of a trap. So I do somewhat like that one. The only reason I make this one green is that we're kind of going short right into these lows. There's enough room to get out before here, pretty much, but not here. And it's not very far to a new low, so it's a little bit aggressive, but it is a trap. Notice the new high here, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, and you're looking for a new low anyway. So there's your trap that you need, and it's really a quick, easy move, and then it pulls back. And really, there's another trap right here. But when we made that double bottom, and I just don't really like entering there. It really could be green as well. But now you've bounced there multiple times, and you got to be really careful going short into strong support. Um, so I'll make that one green, but I'm not crazy about it. But notice what happens when you get that failed break lower. And look at that reversal bar. I already had my stop there waiting in case it busted. It went out the bottom side, then turned up. And a lot of times those will go right out the other side, and that's what you want. Otherwise, you may not have had much chance to catch this trade. I already had my order in there waiting on it. Hopefully you did too. And if not, maybe you got filled, but you can see it took off. And this is the trade of the day, really, right here. And if you just rode this up, it's a spike in a channel, and if you just rode it up until you got the very first close and the move below it, that's to right there. That's basically 5 points. So 5 points on one runner. If you had, depending on what kind of setup you had there, if you had multiple runners, you did pretty well. And then notice now you got the spike and you got the channel working up, and this is the first break. Another trader sent me an email this morning. He couldn't figure out how I avoided going long here, but he had a second entry long right here somewhere. You don't see that on my chart. We're just kind of going sideways, and then you're moving down. You do get a second entry long here, but notice that trend line kind of working down, and that's the first break. You got to be real careful. We're not back to what looks like it could be the lower trend line here. The way I determined that this was the actual channel was based off this midline. I originally had it drawn off this swing, then I drew it off this one, and it fit up here really nicely, but we got a break there, so I wasn't sure. But you can see as we came back into it, that's definitely the midline, and that fits on both sides here. So I believe that to be it, and you can see it came back into play. I wasn't 100% sure until we came back in play here, but I felt pretty good about it just because of the midline here. And I believe that to be it. And so we got the break really early here. So now we're just playing this, but this is a break, and we're looking for a new high, so you're just looking for a reason to get into this. It's a bounce off the EMA. There's a little bit of congestion there. It is a second entry, though, and it's not a bad signal bar. All these bars are closing up in the upper half, but you got to be careful of that congestion. You got to understand why we're congesting here. And that's what I told the other player, because he had a similar setup here with a second entry, but it was congesting here, but we weren't into the EMA. So there was something across the top causing that congestion. And so you can't go long into that. And you can see all that resistance right across there. So you need room to get out before you enter there. And if you want to go long right here, you've got enough room, but because that trend line's still working down, you don't have a close. You got your first close outside, but you never get a retest, so you got to be careful. You get a chance to go in here, but now you're right into a double top, the high of the day, so you don't want to go on there. And so unless you want to be aggressive here, the only place to enter this decently was down here. This is one of those times where you just got to be, really patient, because this bar. This bar closes at 8:34, and you don't get your next for sure trade that's really nice until 9:09. So you got to wait over 30 minutes there, and that's hard for some people to do, and they're constantly looking for an entry. So this one actually could be considered a breakout pullback long, because we did go higher, and that's a pretty good reversal bar. But when we didn't break higher on the next bar, that makes me very scared of that trade. And so I think you're better off to wait. You could have another aggressive one right here on this double top, because we're way away from the EMA. So I'm willing to give that one a green one too. But again, these are green. You've only had one really good setup so far that I'm willing to call blue, and that's right here. And all the rest of these are green so far. But notice you got a new high there. You get a pullback first entry, pullback second entry. So that's a failed second entry long. It went out the top first and then turns down and goes right out the other side. There's a double bottom right there, so that's like a little breakout pullback short. So there's several different reasons to like that one. You do have to go long or short right at the lows here, but we've got everything in place to get a reversal now. And look how we came up way short of the upper line. This is back below the midline here. It's a failed second entry long. It went out the top first, then out the bottom, all in the same bar. So several different reasons to like that one. Notice your trend line right off those first few bars there, and you get a second touch here, and this confirms it. So I like this one when it broke higher and turned and closed on its very low. Go short there. You're looking for prices to come back to here and maybe get a nice trend down. Quick, easy scalp, and then we just kind of start going sideways and getting choppy. We are bouncing. It's tempting to go long here, but that's really the first close outside, so we're looking for a new low. So you got to be real careful. There is a short, a failed second entry short there, um, and it is bouncing off that trend line. So there's some reasons again to make another, to call this an aggressive green trade. But again, I think you're better off just kind of wait and see what happens. And it just kind of keeps going sideways. It would have worked, and then it turns down. But notice what happens here. Um, you got a new high, you pull back, you get a first entry, you pull back, you get a second entry. And I definitely wouldn't be taking that second entry long after just making um, that failed break higher to move down, and the fact that we're going sideways and everything's kind of hitting underneath. Plus, you've got this move here, and you're looking for a new low. So I would be looking for, you got your first leg, and you're probably going to get a measured move. And you can see if you measure just the closes, you got a perfect measured move basically, but you should generally measure that from the high. And so you're looking for a measured move right down to this previous support area right in here. And you can see that. And actually, I did have my line already there. And so that's where you're looking for your target to be if we go lower. And when you get that trap, I like going lower there. But again, I made it green because there's just so much overlap right there, just kind of going sideways. But the reason is because we can't get back through the EMA. That's what causes that. The sellers haven't come in real strong, but there's not enough buying to get it through that EMA, and that's what causes these little congestion areas like that. Kind of the same thing underneath here, but when we were kind of bouncing along it right there. So I like that one for an aggressive trade because of the trap. And once you're in, you're looking for it to come down here. So I'd look to exit just above that line. Again, you have somewhat of a failed break lower here. You do have a measured move, but your signal bar, which is this bar, is not very good. And this is just an inside bar, so I think you got to wait. You do get a pretty decent second entry here counting off the low, but again, everything's still kind of below that EMA. Again, you could probably make that one green, but when it tries to go lower there and fails and turns up, that's the trade you're waiting on. Now you've got a failed second entry short, because notice that new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. And that's another nice, quick, easy trade that tricks everybody. And the same trader that asked me about this later asked me about here. He said, how do you keep from going short right there? Well, this is a no-brainer. This is basic price action 101. First of all, you draw that trend line off those first two swings. But before that, you got this support. Notice how it was resistance earlier, then it's support. And when we get back down here, it's acting as support. You don't want to go short right into that support with not even a very good signal bar. And so you just have to sit and wait and hope maybe you get a short trap, and you do, and you go long. So that's how you know not to go. You have to understand, I think what this trader's missing is that he's busy looking for second entries and certain patterns, and I'll remind you guys again, we're not pattern traders. We're looking for these patterns, but you got to be able to see the big picture. You got to know what's going on. And notice that we've got two legs down, two measured legs, and we're into strong support. But more than anything, notice you got that trend line working down. You get the break and new low, so now we're probably going to go the other way, and now you got a higher low here, and when it bounces, that's another reason. Not only is it a failed second entry short, but now it confirms that trend line, and you got a great reversal bar, and it's a second entry long counting off the high. Look at that high. Pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So there's multiple reasons to go long, and plenty of reasons not to go short right there, more than anything. And then guess what? You get another two-legged pull back to that same trend line. This is not a very good signal bar, but it doesn't break higher. But then you make a little double top, and it goes lower and turns. It goes right out the other side. Just have your stop waiting there, and again, you get another entry. And then watch what happens. Pull back first entry, pull back second entry. You get another second entry long right off that same trend line. And you got a fairly decent bar, signal bar there. It broke higher and backed up a little bit, but then it turns and goes right to the other side of the channel. And then guess what? Comes back First entry, pull back. There's a second entry long, and that's your first break of this channel. So you're going to probably, and plus now this is really looking like strong support. So we're probably going to go back up and test the other side. It's kind of congestive. It's sideways, a lot of overlap. So again, I made that one green. And notice what happens. It tried to go lower here, and then you get another entry at a little correction and entry. And if that would have broke lower first, I would have probably drawn that one blue right there. But there's really two chances to get in there if you want to be aggressive. So I'll circle it. And they're really good trades. And plus, at this point, you're looking for it to go test this high, and maybe this one. And it goes up there. It kind of hesitates, makes a triple top, and then it breaks higher. And notice it makes a little higher low here and a little bitty small signal bar. A chance to get in there with a little bit of risk, and it's a little higher low. So that's a second entry, technically counting off the high. And this is one of those where you could draw that trend line off those first few closes across there, and it comes in back into play down here. But even more than that, notice what happens before it gets there. If you drag this down, it fits really nicely on this side. Look at it catching those moves and bouncing. So drag it. So even if you didn't find it off those first few, notice where it turns down exactly in that same spot. So this is one of those where you get that trend line off those first few closes and bars that kind of go across there. And it fits perfectly. And you can actually confirm it before prices ever get there. Just like I just showed you. You wouldn't have had that yet. You could have found it from right here. Once you started going higher there anyway, for sure. And by the time it gets there, it's perfect. And notice what it is. You got a new low. You pull back first entry. You pull back. That's a big bearish reverse bar second entry. It didn't close quite on its low. So you might have let it drop lower and then dropped a limit order just to get a better entry. But sometimes you're going to miss some really good trades. And you know you trap some people here because look at that thing move. Boom, it takes off. So people were looking at this support across here, I guess, and thinking they had a failed break lower. But the more proven one was down here. So something's not quite right on the line there. Should be like that. So, yep. So that was the last entry of the day that got you into the 2 o'clock hour. And so not a lot of trades today, but there was, again, if you just caught, once you realized what you got going on here, once we turned down right here and started lower, you figure we probably got a range. And if you just caught those couple of trades, if you caught that one, you get a runner, you can ride it all the way back down, just exit down here. If you caught this one, you ride it all the way up. And so you only had to catch a couple of really good trades here to do well today. But again, there weren't a whole lot of trades today. So just had to, unless you're a little more advanced and a more aggressive trader, you can see there's a lot of those, but we're just really a lot of overlap and a lot of congestion, and we're swinging back and forth across both sides of the EMA here. So, but this would have been a nice move too. You could have caught a few points on a runner before you hit that low. But that's pretty much it for today, and there's no sense in dragging it out. There's not much else you can say about today. Just remember that when you get a big move up like this, and you can see where prices closed on the last trading day right here. So if at 8:30 prices open way up here, then on the daily chart there's going to be a gap between there and where we opened at 8:30, right in here. So just remember that. And generally prices are going to try to fill that gap, and you can see we kept trying to go lower and we just couldn't do it. We couldn't get through that support right there until the day was basically over. So, and notice what happens on the way up here. This was after 2 o'clock, but since we got a little bit of extra time, look at that channel working up right there. And what happens? We get a close outside, a move to a new high, and a huge sell-off. typical price action. You got to learn to find this stuff. And when people ask me why they shouldn't have gone short, uh, or rather long right here on a second entry, because you got a little trend line working down through there, and even if you don't that, you're going sideways. So um, you got to understand what the big picture is. We're not just looking for patterns, so make sure you understand that. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. There's no sense in dragging out today. Not much else to talk about. Kind of a slow day. Even though it was a big rally today, it was mostly all during the overnight. And really from the 8:30 open, prices didn't do much at all. In fact, we closed down from that point. So nothing to brag about overall, except for what happened in the overnight. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. I hope you had a good trading day. Hopefully you were able to stay patient today. Just remember, on days when there's not much, when you're not seeing any, we're still kind of in the uphill mode from here. But once we start going sideways, you got to just be patient. And remember always, the way you can reduce your losing trades is to make sure you only take trades off the key entry points that are good setups. And one more time before we go, where are the key entry points? The trend lines, up and down, the EMA, and the horizontal support and resistance. And really it all boils down to support and resistance. The key entry points are the strong support and resistance. This EMA acts similar to a trend line. It's often strong support and resistance. When prices are swinging back and forth through it, it's just a range type day. The trend line's a trend line. All it is just an angled form of support and resistance. It still holds just like it does if it's flat, generally, until prices can get through it. And so keep that in mind. If you understand those key pieces and you know where those key entry points are, it changes everything for you. So if you're having trouble and you're struggling, ask yourself, am I only entering the good setups at key entry points? And if you're not, try to start doing that, because look where all the really good trades came from on a failed break below this key entry point, this strong support. Where did the other ones come from? Off this, several of them off of this strong support, several off this strong resistance here, several off that strong trend line. So that's where your key entry points are. Remember that and learn to trade them. So anyway, I'm out of here. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.